Welcome back to another episode of Profitable Publishing. Today we're going to be talking about why it's so important to sell your book on your website. And this is something that is a hotly contested topic inside the author community, and I wanted to give my take on it because so many authors are missing opportunities to maximize their sales and to really connect with their readers because they are only selling on Amazon or other major retailers. And so I'm Ashley, I'm your host, and this is a space for coaches, consultants, speakers, and service providers to be able to package your expertise into a profitable book that builds your brand and supports your clients for real business growth. Now, it's so important to be able to get paid multiple ways. So that means not just limiting your pay to just whenever Amazon decides to pay you 60 days after your book ships, or only having your book be on TikTok Shop, or whatever the case may be. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. We've seen that time and time again where Amazon has issues with their reporting, or where the blackout that happened with TikTok, whatever the case may be, you want to own your customer data. Not in a creepy way. We'll talk about what that means. You want to own your customer data. You want to be able to have that connection with them and to be able to reach out to them, as well as to nurture them before, during, and after your release. And so with this is something that literally comes up multiple times on threads, multiple times on social media, in different author groups. And I said, I really need to address this because it's something that I talk about in my book, Profitable Publishing with Pre-Orders. When it comes to pre-selling your book, I encourage authors to do that on their website to really maximize sales, because you get to control the process and really connect with your readers. So there's a whole system and framework and structure that I have that I teach in that book, but I wanted to actually do a mini case study to show you how I practice what I preach. I was talking to someone and I shared that it's really important to think about, when you're listening to advice from people or when you're working with coaches, to really choose people who are actually doing the thing that you are doing, or who have done it very recently. And so that's something that I believe in the sense of where I'm suggesting things to authors, suggesting things to coaches, I'm giving strategies to my clients, and I'm actually actively still doing the work. I'm still actively publishing books. I'm still marketing my book. And that gives me a really great perspective because I'm able to see what's working, what's not working, what has changed in the market. And you just want to make sure whoever you are listening to as your one or two guiding voices is abreast of what's going on. So that's my little soapbox for that part. Let's get on another soapbox. And so on Saturday, this past weekend, I was just going about my day, and then I saw that I got an order for my book, Profitable Publishing with Pre-Orders. And it was the ebook version, which I sell on my website because I do not do Kindle Unlimited for that book. That means that I'm able to sell it freely wherever I would like to. In the author space, it's called going wide, where you're not just making your ebook exclusive to Amazon. And so at the time of purchase, that book was $14.99 for the ebook version, and it's the full color version, and it's interactive in that sense. And so right from jump, I'm already making more than I would have made if it was exclusive to Kindle Unlimited. So if you don't know, Kindle Unlimited is where readers can pay a certain fee a month. And then on the flip side, for authors, you get paid just for the page is read. So the person buys the book, they add it to their Kindle, their device, whatever the case may be. And then you get paid about 0.004 cents per page read. So that means you're not getting paid until they've actually read that page, as opposed to where if someone buys a physical copy or if they buy an ebook on your site, you're getting paid the full amount whether or not they read the book. And so I did the math just to be curious. And so if I were to have the book on Kindle Unlimited and sell an ebook copy, it would just make me 84 cents. And that wouldn't happen until someone had actually read the entire book, the entire 210 pages. Versus the way that I structure things on my site, I'm able to sell it. I get $14.99. It's delivered immediately because I have the automation set up. And so my customer is able to receive it. And so first, that's a plus for having it on your site, to be able to have that automation going to instantly maximize profit. And then that's over a 10x profit versus just having it on a site like Amazon for your ebook. So anyway, the customer, her name is Imani, and she tagged me on Instagram and did a screenshot of her tablet to show that she was like reading the book, and she's preparing for a pre-order next year. And so anytime people post stuff and tag me, I engage with them, I respond. It's just a nice way to really connect with your audience. And so I responded to her, and just commended her for starting her pre-order process so early, because often authors that I work with or people that I see comments of, they ask, I only have this much time left. Like, should I have already started? And oftentimes my answer is yes, you need to go ahead and get started. Especially if you want to make it to be this huge success, you need time. Like, if you're trying to sell thousands of copies in pre-orders or do thousands of dollars in pre-orders, then, or tens of thousands of dollars in pre-orders, you have to give it time to actually happen. So I reposted what she shared using the feature that Instagram has built in, and just complimented her on starting her pre-order a little bit over a year in advance, or around a year in advance. And then we just were having a casual conversation. I asked her a little bit about her book, not in a pushy way, not in a super marketing way, but just like, hey, just having a conversation, just being a normal person. So we were just having a conversation, and I said, okay, go ahead and enjoy the book. And she's like, oh, I've already finished it. And so this is literally the same day. And so Imani, just some context about her, she was telling me that she just finished her doctorate. So she's used to consuming a large quantity of text. She's able to go through them very quickly. And so I said, oh, okay, wow. So since you've already finished the book, what are your takeaways? What's your feedback? Just leaving it open-ended, not really guiding. And so I typically do that when I ask people questions, because when I ask people for questions about my work, just because you never know what direction they're going to say. And sometimes they say things you literally had never would have thought of. And so she was just pouring into me and saying, oh my gosh, this is such a great resource. And she was sharing how the book impacted her. And so had I not known, going back to our point of how having your book on your website helps build connection, had I not known who she was because she hadn't purchased from my website, I wouldn't have necessarily been able to have this conversation. Now, of course, there are ways that she could have found me. There are other things I put inside of my books to be able to allow readers to come to my site, to follow me on social media. However, when somebody buys something on your site, you get their contact information, you get their email, you may get their phone number depending upon what you have set up, and you have ways to connect with them and communicate with them. And so through that conversation, because it was set up on my site, she and I now have a connection of where she shared certain things with me, and she said I could share them with you. And so one of the things she mentioned is just her takeaways and transformation of shifting her thinking of what pre-order should look like. And so she said that she appreciates the work that I do, and that the book is something that's helping to show her that God is using me to push her to think bigger and to not be so limited in what he can do through her and through her business. And so she said she never really considered the aspect of selling things outside of just her book and adding that as a part of value, as well as exclusivity that you can do with pre-orders, where certain things are just offered during the pre-order period. And so that was just really an eye-opener for her. And then she also said that she realized she's been playing small, and that it's now time for her to play big. And so all of that, just from us sharing voice notes back and forth, I might not have had that opportunity had I just been focused on trying to really just get my Amazon sales up, or trying to get a bunch of sales on bookstore websites, which I do get those. However, that has separated a lot of authors from being able to have a deeper connection with their readers. So the takeaway from this is that because she purchased on my site, we were able to have a connection, we were able to have a conversation, which doesn't always happen if you don't know who buys your book, because when you sell on Amazon, when you sell on Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, all these other sites, you don't know who your book is being purchased by, so you don't have that opportunity. Then I know who she is, I can follow up with her, I can track where she came from. That's one of the biggest things and the biggest benefits is it's hard to know what's working, and it's hard to know what you should keep doing if you don't know what's previously worked. And when you don't have access to your customer data, you don't know who your customer is, then it's a lot harder to do that. And so that's an issue that I see with a lot of authors, is that they strictly are focusing on sales on these other sites. And so they don't have that continual connection. And even if you're someone who is a speaker, and let's say your book is added onto your speaking gig or your speaking opportunity, you want a way to also have some type of connection point between you and the individual people who are receiving your book. So you want to do some type of negotiation where they're either scanning a QR code to be able to connect with you, or they are signing up for something. So that way they didn't just see you speak at this event, they got your book, and then that's the end of the story. You want to have some type of way to continue that conversation. And so then the next way that having your book on your website and selling it from there is beneficial is that it gives you opportunities for content creation. So just from the story that I told you about Imani, I've been able to create a piece of content. This podcast episode was inspired by the fact that Imani reached out to me. We had a conversation, and now I have an additional touch point, an additional piece of content I can use throughout my content marketing strategy. So I can do a podcast episode. I can even consider interviewing Imani and getting her take on it on video. If she's willing to do that, I'll reach out to her and see. I can use this in emails and share with my audience. I can use it on social media. I can literally do, and with her permission, she said I could share these things, but I can literally use this as a point of content creation that I didn't have to come up with, that I didn't have to rack my brain about and really think, okay, what am I going to write about today? What am I going to post about today? And that's so powerful because it can be sometimes exhausting to think about, what do my readers want to see? What do they want to hear? And I know my readers care about selling more books. And so I can show them a way that I have sold more books because I'm showing them that I'm actively still doing the work. I am getting results, and I'm able to showcase the steps with that with one of my books. And so that's just really powerful. It also provides social proof. It lets others who might not be aware of me know, for example, when I do a post about this, I'm going to tag her. So then that introduces her audience. That also gives her a little bit of encouragement to then really focus on her pre-order for her book because people know that she's working on something. So it's like announcing it without really announcing it. And it's giving it like a heads up without being like, buy my book. And so, as you may know, it takes multiple touch points for people to purchase from you. And so this is an additional touch point that she can use that's basically advertising her book without being overt about advertising it, or even just going to her to get more details and following her as well. Within that content creation, it's also a way for me to have a testimonial and have social proof that is not just me bragging about my book. And that moves me into the next reason why it's so important to have your book on your website is because it gives you confirmation. When people are willing to purchase your book from your website, not just Amazon, it really shows that, okay, they trust you. They understand that you might be a small business, and so you might operate differently than other sites that they might be used to. They also understand that you might not have 2-day shipping like Amazon. You might not have next day shipping, same day shipping in some places, and they're okay with that. So that type of person is going to be more likely to be like a raving fan. They're going to be very excited about your work. They're excited to wait on it, and they're okay with it. And so that gives you confirmation, and then also gives you a boost of confidence that there's somebody out there, or there are some bodies out there who are willing to do all these things that seem very contrary to what the regular world assumes and regular world thinks. People think everybody wants things super quick, fast, and hurry. But there is also something to be said about people who are willing to wait for those kinds of things. And so it helps you to squash that imposter syndrome. It helps you to squash that overthinking because it's like, okay, someone trusts me enough with their hard-earned dollars. I know who the person is, and they're willing to wait on my book. In my case, for the ebook, they didn't have to wait on it. But if they were to order a physical copy, then somebody would. And so going back to our story, so all of that happened on Saturday. We had that conversation. And then fast forward to Tuesday, I saw some message she left over the weekend. And so I went back and responded to them. And she let me know that she was going to refer me to other authors. And then also I asked her if she would be willing to leave a review. Because earlier in the conversation, she had already said that she was more than happy for me to share what she had already said to me in response to her liking the book. And then I gave her the wording that she said, so that way if she wanted to copy and paste it into Amazon, into my review site, then that's totally fine with her. It makes it a smoother process for her. And so once again, that is more validation. That's more confirmation that, okay, not only did this person have a great experience, I followed their entire customer journey. And now in order to kind of wrap things up with this purchase and or to help facilitate the process that this can help others, I'm asking her to share those things out. And she's more likely to do that because she had a great experience reading the book. She's connected with me. She feels like it's a personable experience. And often authors underestimate the value of just reaching out to readers and or talking to readers. I was looking at a post that someone said, do authors, is it okay if we message them? Like, are they okay with that? And the authors in the comments were like, yes, I love it. And For a long time, I do believe that there has been this stigma of between authors and readers talking to each other. From what I've heard, word on the street is that from a while ago, it was the fact that you used to be able to respond to your reviews, and that caused some animosity between people because they felt like, okay, reader spaces, I'm going to read my book, I'm going to tell my other readers about it. I don't necessarily want the creator coming in there and telling me about my book or telling me about their intention for the book or whatever the case may be. And then I have heard authors say that they don't necessarily want readers to give them negative feedback after the fact, because at that point it's like, I've already written the book. I'm not going to go back and write the book just because 1 to 2 people told me that they didn't like it, because obviously your book is not for everybody. However, I am also seeing conversations where people are excited to talk to the author. And if you think about like book signings and where people are sharing like Kennedy Ryan or Jen Hamilton, where they are sharing like, hey, I'm signing all these books, like people in the comments are excited about those things. And so there are spaces where authors and readers love to communicate with each other. And so when you have somebody purchase your book from your website, you have a higher likelihood of being able to communicate with them, and a likelihood of being able to have a positive interaction with them. And so maybe you're thinking that, okay, well, I don't know how to do this, and I would love for this to happen. This would be great, but I'm just not sure that this would work for me. Then I encourage you to book a call with me to check out my Profitable Publishing Partner Service, because I actually work with you to outline, to write, and to publish your book so that you have your readers reaching out to you saying how wonderful your book is, and also making sure your book is something that encourages them to actually read your book, to review your book, and recommend your book. And so if that's something you're interested in, you can head to the show notes and click the link there to book a call with me. And then maybe on the opposite end of the spectrum, you're thinking, well, my book is already out. How can I do this? Is this something that still can work for me? So that is still an option. You do have a couple options you can do, and it could include inserting different nuggets throughout your book, inserting a lead magnet for readers to be able to connect with you, to get on your interest list. It could look like having an event surrounding your book that's associated with your book to be able to have people to sign up for something, so that way you can still get their information in exchange for something that they find beneficial, or considering adding them on for your next launch. So you likely are releasing more than one book, or you likely will have another book that's coming out at some point. And so letting them know, hey, if you'd like to get updates from me, or if you'd like to join us for XYZ, then sign up for this list and you'll get this in exchange. Now, of course, whatever that is looks very different depending upon your book's topic, depending upon your capacity, and depending upon your audience. And so that's also something that I support authors with inside of my program, specifically the Profitable Publishing Partner Service. So today we talked about how powerful it is to have your book on your website. And for the first reason is that it gives you the connection with your readers that you might not have if you sell on other sites like the big brick and mortar stores. And then second, it helps you to create content. When people buy books from your site, that's a pretty easy thing to post and to share and to help create social proof for others to purchase. And then lastly, it gives you confirmation that you're doing the right thing, that you're doing what your readers want, and it really just boosts your confidence. Thank you for listening to today's episode. And until next time, stay profitable.